Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We'll get started in about a minute and a half. Good afternoon, Lisa. How's the weather in Moose Jaw? Hot and sticky like it is here? Hi, Mavis. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to cool off here this evening. I'm hoping. Thank you, Mavis. That's the way the weather seemed to be going, Lisa. It's like it's 32 one day and then it's 10 the next. Yeah, it's a good day to paint when it's only 11 degrees. Hi, Florin. How are you today? Hi, Melissa. I am in Winnipeg, Lisa. All right, so it's 2:00. We're going to get started. Hi, Catherine. My name's Diane Brine. I'm the Health Promotion Manager here in 17 Wing, Winnipeg, and today I will be presenting on continuing our Getting Race Ready series, but looking at performance nutrition today. So thank you very much for joining us today. Our presentation probably will be not quite an hour. We're scheduled for an hour, but I think we'll be finished before that. So I'm looking at around 45 minutes that we're going to be here. We will be using the chat box for all our discussions. So if you have any questions or concerns or anytime that I ask you, please just type it into the chat box and that would be great. All right, I am also going to get rid of my picture, get rid of the camera, and just makes the PowerPoint larger so it's easier to see, and we will get started. All right, so as I said, today we're going to be talking about performance nutrition. And this is part of your systems plan, right? Getting ready for the virtual Army run or the Navy bike ride, which is already currently underway. When looking at nutrition, I like to use the analogy of a car. If we want our car to work well and last a long time, then we need to take care of it, tune it up, use the proper oil and other lubricants, and ensure that the gas we're using is of high quality. So the same goes for us. To perform at our best, we need to stay healthy, look after ourselves when we get hurt, and eat nutritionally dense foods. Hi, Leona. Hi, Sean. Hi, Leanne. So before we get started, the presentation that you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense, and any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained in this presentation is strictly forbidden. So some of the topics discussed in this webinar may be of sensitive nature and not appropriate for children. I would suggest that today is not really of a sensitive nature, but some of the things that we may be talking about might not be appropriate for small children. Hello, Donnie. So we ask for parental discretion when we're going through these topics. So I know many of you are watching from home and your children may be around, so just be aware. Please understand that any of the stories that people wish to share are theirs alone to tell, and anything that is shared by participants in this webinar, in the chat box as well, is not to be discussed outside the webinar. And this webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on the PSP YouTube channel. So although we encourage active participation, you can simply follow along without using the chat function if you prefer. So let's find out who's all on the line. So a quick poll looking at what your affiliation is to Canadian Armed Forces community. So we have some serving members, a veteran, some family members, civilian employees, and one other. That's really good. That's a nice mix of people. So that'll be good for today. So knowing what to eat and how much to eat before, during, and after your training can give you the performance edge you're looking for. However, it's the food that you eat every day that amounts to about 75% of your total nutrition, and that's your foundation. This includes healthy eating according to Canada's Food Guide, eating balanced meals, etc. This is the largest component of your performance success. So if you're eating unhealthy foods every day and then try to add performance nutrition only during competitions or races, etc., you'll find that your performance will be lacking. Everyday eating is important, and this is why we're going to spend time today looking at that everyday eating and how we can pump it up a little bit to improve our nutrition and our performance. So the inner half circle is about 24 to 25% of your nutrition. This is what you would do for your training or sport. So that includes fluid and fuel needs before, during, and after activity. And we're going to cover this topic later in our series on July 15th. And then finally, this small half circle represents only about 0 to 1% of your nutritional needs. This is where sports supplements fit in. If you don't do the performance, if you're not doing performance sports, and if you don't invest in the two larger sections, then supplements will be of no benefit to you. In fact, they may even be harmful. So my question to you right now is, what does healthy eating look like? So you want to take a moment and type something in the chat box, that would be great. But what does healthy eating look like? Lots of color. Vegetarian. Cool. Lots of fruits, veggies, and whole grains. Canada's Food Guide, for sure. Balance. Moderation. Food as close to a natural source as possible. For me, it's lots of veggies and fruits. I try to eat less carbs, for sure. Okay, whole foods. So, Lindsay, when you're talking about carbs, you're talking about eating less grains, I'm guessing. Eating whole foods. All right. So for sure, healthy eating is about choosing a variety of foods from a variety of food groups. If we were to look at the plate method, half your plate should be veg or fruit. A quarter would be a protein source, and the other quarter would be from whole grains. Yeah, less white rice, less bread, for sure, Lindsay. That makes sense. Right, and then water would be your drink of choice to help you stay hydrated. So what I've got for you today is I've got a little handout that you can use to follow along. This will actually be some homework for you to think about your performance nutrition and how well you're doing. Okay, so now we're going to look at the 6 nutrients that our body needs. So I'm sure you can all name them quickly, but we're going to start today with carbohydrates. So when we look at carbohydrates, they give us 4 kilocalories of energy per gram of carbohydrate. And we should be aiming to have 45 to 65% of our energy coming from carbohydrates. So all carbohydrates are broken down in our digestive tract and our liver into glucose. And glucose circulates in our bloodstream to provide energy for all cells. The brain and the blood cells use only glucose for fuel. Small amounts of carbohydrates are stored as glycogen in the liver and in the muscles. So liver glycogen, that's what we use to maintain our blood sugar level or blood glucose level from one meal to the next. And the muscles don't like to share their glycogen at all with the rest of the body. They just use it for the muscles. Carbohydrates can be found in pretty much all foods except meat. When we look at carbohydrates, they're divided into like three areas: sugars, starches, and fiber. And the excess carbohydrates, like too many calories from any source, will be stored as fat. And again, not all carbohydrates are created equal. So we need to choose a variety of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, lower fat dairy for your carbohydrate intake. And try to stay away from highly processed foods, as these are high in added sugar, usually high fructose corn syrup, and fat and salt. Right? So as Lindsay was mentioning, trying to stay less white rice, less bread, looking at getting some really good whole grains in your diet would be another good way to get those carbohydrates as well. They're going to give you the fiber that your body needs. Are there any questions about carbohydrates? So really, carbohydrates, like fat, are the gas that we put into our vehicle. All right, so let's move on to protein. So protein is another source of energy that we use, and again, gives us 4 kilocalories of energy per gram. And we should be aiming for 10 to 35% of our energy needs coming from protein. So not very much. Protein is known as a structural part of our bodies. So bones, muscles, and tendons are all made from protein. And it takes energy to put that protein into the body's structure. So carbohydrates are needed to supply that energy for building. Protein has other jobs as well. Hormones like insulin are made from protein, so are enzymes that digest the food in our digestive tract. Proteins act as carriers that move minerals like iron and calcium. Typically, a healthy, balanced diet supplies all the protein a person needs for the protein jobs in the body. If we compare it to a car, it would be the material from which the body and the engine are made. So just like a car cannot be driven fast without a solid frame, without protein in the human body cannot be kept in a healthy state. There are 20 kinds of amino acids that make up proteins, 9 of which are not synthesized by the body and are therefore called essential amino acids. And these essential amino acids must be supplemented from our meals. We have to get them from the food that we eat. But I just want to remind everybody that there is a limit to the amount of protein our bodies can use for protein-related functions. So it's about 1.7 grams to 2.0 grams per kilogram of body weight that our body can use for protein-related functions. And any excess is typically stored as fat. All right, so let's look at fats. Again, this is a source of energy for us. So like carbohydrates, this is part of the gas that we give our body. And this is a really dense way of getting energy. So 9 kilocalories per gram of energy is what we get from fat. 20 to 35% of our diet should be coming from fat. As I said, fat is a concentrated way to store energy, and we need fat in our diet. It makes food taste good, it helps absorb vitamins and other plant chemicals like beta carotene. And fat digests slowly, so it keeps us from getting hungry and hopefully from overeating. And although consuming too much fat can lead to obesity, small amounts can provide a highly efficient energy source. Fats can be found in abundance in the fatty portions of meat and in cooking oils. When we're looking at fats, we want to be eating those healthier fats. So what would be an example of a healthier fat? Fish, sure. The fish oils and fat are extremely healthy for you. Florin, how much fats? Usually the amount of fat to get to make up 20 to 30% of your diet is only a couple of tablespoons. Avocados is absolutely. It's not a lot. It sounds like a lot when you say it should be 20 to 35% of your diet, but in reality, because it is so dense, you don't need a lot of it. So you want to be trying to eat the unsaturated fat, whether it's monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. And you can tell those because they are liquid at room temperature. Saturated fats tend to be a solid at room temperature. And of course, then there's trans fats, which we are all going to avoid because they're not good for us. Right, let's look at hydration. Why is water so important? We're made of it. Yep. Not quite as much as these snowmen are, but yeah, we're made of it. Aids digestion for sure. Water is the most important nutrient in the body. No, snowman. Perhaps, yeah. 60% of our body is made up of water, and absolutely, Leanne, metabolic processes occur in water. Most of the chemical reactions in our body occur in water. It's our body's cooling system. So if you happen to be in Winnipeg today, it is 32 degrees with plus humidity. So I'm not quite sure how hot it is outside, but it's warm. So we really need to be drinking lots of water to help to allow our cooling system to operate appropriately. It lubricates our joints and cushions our organs. Blood plasma is mainly water. So it's recommended that we... Yes, Mark, there is. It's recommended that you drink at least 2 liters of water per day, plus whatever you would need for your exercise needs or for heat-related things. 38 degrees Celsius with humidity in Winnipeg today. It's a tad warm. Absolutely. So yeah, so we should be drinking lots of water. So ice cubes do count. As long as you eat them and don't throw them on the grass. So, are you getting enough water? Freezies. Sure. You just have to be aware of the sugar content in freezies. So aim for those 2 liters of water per day if you can. So on the handout that I gave you, there is a little chart there for you to track your fluid intake. So I'd like you to try and do that, track that fluid intake to see how well you're doing. All right, so vitamins and minerals. Vitamin minerals are not used as energy, but instead aid in the breaking down and building up of proteins, fats, and sugars, and are an essential nutrient for keeping the body healthy and in good working order. So it's like the engine oil that we have. Vitamin is a general term for the organic compounds that contain carbon, which are mostly impossible for the body to synthesize, and a lack of these vitamins can possibly lead to various deficiency-related diseases. Vitamins can be broken down into two categories, those that are water-soluble and those that are fat-soluble. So fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K dissolve easily in fats, another reason why we need to have fat in our diet, and can lead to a vitamin overdose if we consume too many in large amounts. Water-soluble vitamins, so the B vitamins and vitamin C, dissolve easily in water and thus carry very little risk of overdose. Vitamins can be found in large amounts in fruits and vegetables. Minerals are also referred to as the inorganic matter. It's a general term for the chemical elements that make up the human body, excluding oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, so all the other elements. There are 16 different minerals which are necessary for the human body. That includes calcium, iron, sodium, magnesium, and they can be found in an abundance in fruit, vegetables, things like seaweed, milk, dairy products. Our body can't make vitamins except vitamin D, and we can't make minerals, so we have to get those from food. So one of the issues about vitamins, and I think vitamins and minerals, and perhaps even with protein, if you think a little is good, then a lot's got to be better. And that's not always necessarily true. So we really need to paying attention on the amount of vitamins and minerals that we are getting, ensuring that we're getting a good mix of them. All right, so how do we improve your nutrition? What are some things that you are currently doing to ensure that you're eating well? How can you improve your nutrition? By not eating out. Okay. Making a meal plan, then make the grocery list based on the plan. Absolutely. Food journal. There are probably more, Florin. These are just the ones that the 16 are the main minerals. It's not vitamins, just minerals. Don't eat out of boredom. Not finishing my kids' food. For sure. So Steph says food journal. How many people keep a food journal to look at how well they're eating? Meal prep at the beginning of the week. I wish. All the time. Very good. On Fitness Pal. Yeah. Informally used to. Following a food plan. Okay. Are you finding doing that helping by keeping that journal? Cool. Okay. So somebody else had said meal planning. So who else is meal planning? Okay. Marcus. Nice Mavis. Good Lisa. What are some, so when we look at meal planning, what are benefits of meal planning? That's an excellent benefit right there. Busy family of 5, it keeps you on track weekly. Sure. Making sure you're hitting all the essential micros. Yep. Makes grocery shopping easier for sure. You're not wandering the store. Anticipation of what is for dinner. Yeah, you're not walking around looking at each other going, so what do you want for supper? I don't know. I don't either. Saves money for sure. So you're just buying the food that you need, not the food that you think maybe you might need. For sure. Yeah. Less waste. Sure. Probably in both ways. Yeah. Keeps you from making poor food decisions on a whim. Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. So you need to make that plan to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables daily, right? So one of the things that I'd like you to try to do is to eat at least 5 servings a day of vegetables and fruit, and try to include a variety of fruits and vegetables in different colors, because each of the different colors provides you with different nutrients. Right? So when you're looking at servings of vegetables and fruit, a serving is approximately the size of a baseball. So fruits and vegetables are filled with that energy and nutrients necessary for training recovery. Plus, these antioxidant-rich foods can help you combat illnesses like the cold and the flu, and quite possibly COVID-19 too, right? So again, that's one of the reasons why the plate method is such a good way of looking at your food. Half your plate is fruits and vegetables. You know that you're getting the right amount, the right proportion of vegetables and fruit in your diet. You will be getting 5 servings of vegetables and fruit if you use the plate method. Okay, what were some other things that people said they were doing? Not eating out of boredom, not finishing my kids' foods. Yeah. So taking that time to maybe analyze, why am I eating, right? So that's boredom is one of those barriers and one of those reasons why we tend to overeat, because we're not being mindful of what we're eating. Got nothing to do. Well, oh, there's some chips. There's a cookie, right? So we grab it and we start snacking. And lots of times we think we're hungry and we're not really hungry. What we actually are is probably thirsty. So one of the things you can do is grab your water first, take a drink of that. And if you're still hungry, then perhaps you are hungry. And there's some questions you can ask yourself too. How long has it been since I last ate? Has it been 3 to 4 hours? And maybe I need some food. If I just ate half an hour ago, then probably I don't need some food. So looking at how you do that. Right? You need to choose whole grain carbohydrate sources such as whole wheat bread and pasta, and fiber-rich cereals as power-packed energy sources. You want to limit yourself from refined grains and sugars such as sugary cereals, white breads, bagels, white rice. You'll benefit more from those whole grain products. You're going to get that fiber from that whole grain product, and that fiber has no calories attached to it. And it will clean out your digestive system. So it's a win-win. So get the fiber. I like to put fruits and vegetables on the plate. Nice. Absolutely. Yeah, because if you put your grain and your protein on it, that might fill up your plate. For sure. That's a really good idea, Lisa. Putting the veggies and fruit on the plate first. Okay, when you're choosing your protein, you want to be choosing healthier sources of protein: chicken, fish, turkey, peanut butter, eggs, nuts, legumes. And then stay hydrated with beverages. Even as little as a 2% drop in hydration levels can negatively impact your performance. It can lead to a 25% drop in your performance. So really important to stay hydrated. And those options include water, milk, 100% fruit juice, and sport drinks. But remember that sport drinks and 100% fruit juice tend to be higher in overall sugar content. And in the case of fruit juice, lack many of the health benefits present in its whole food counterpart. So eating an orange, you're still getting the fiber from the orange, which has been totally lost in the fruit juice. So, and also be sure not to confuse sport drinks such as Gatorade with energy drinks such as Red Bull or similar beverages. You want to stick to whole food options as much as possible as opposed to the highly processed foods. There's a lot of sugar in fruit. So depending on how much fruit you've added to your smoothie, it could have more sugar than you intended. But again, there are different types of sugar. Right? There's a natural occurring sugar that appears in fruit, and then there's sugar that you can add. So naturally occurring sugar is much better for you to have than adding extra sugar to something. Right? So even if you're having, with children, if you're buying fruit cups, you look for those fruit cups that are packed in water and not in light syrup or juice, because nutritionally that's better for you. Less sugar. Does that make sense? Okay. So in the handout that I gave you, you've got you have the picture of the plate to remind you of what the plate should look like. And what I'd like you to do is over the next week, looking at the meals that you have, does your meal match the plate method? Does it match the plate method for breakfast? Does it match the plate method for lunch? Does it match the plate method for dinner? So when you look at your plate, is half the food vegetables or fruit? Is a quarter of it a grain? Is a quarter of it a protein source? And it might not happen that every meal is like that, but if you can aim to do that, that would be great. So there's also a portion there for you to make up a goal. So what your goal is to help you to improve your performance nutrition. Do you have a goal that you want to do? Is there something that you want to change or to start adding? Maybe you want to take Lisa's suggestion and put the vegetables and fruit on the plate first before you add the grain and the protein source. So maybe that's what your goal is going to do, and you're going to try to do that for supper for the next week. That would be great. But also looking at what are the barriers that you might encounter while you're trying to improve your nutrition. What are some things that could get in your way? Fatigue, for sure. Come home after work, or you've been out doing some exercise or something, you come home, you're just tired, you don't feel like cooking anything, you just open the fridge and grab whatever is there. Might not always be the most healthiest choice. Yeah. What are some other barriers that you might encounter? Family functions, for sure. So now that provinces are starting to open up and people are starting to get together again, we're going to family functions where there's an opportunity to eat food that you may not have eaten before, or just to overeat because you're with family. Yeah, finding the time for planning and meal prep as well, for sure. Stress. Stress always gets us. Yeah, so just taking that time to slow down. Think if you're looking at time for planning and meal prep, think about your day or your week. When's the time that I can do it? And I would even suggest, Leanne, perhaps even scheduling it into your calendar. If you have a big family calendar on the wall, maybe you say Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3, we are doing our planning for the next week, and we're going to look at what we need. And actually stick that in the calendar and make it something that becomes something that you do. So if it's not on the calendar, lots of times it doesn't happen. Yeah, being too rushed and short of time. Yeah, again, looking at where can I carve that time out in my day to be able to do it. If I can prep some of my food the night before or the morning when I'm getting my breakfast ready, Can I start maybe getting some things ready that I'm going to need for supper so that I'm not going to be too rushed later on? That might help too for being rushed. Yeah. And you're making, that's really good idea, Lisa. When you're making your meal plan, everyone has a say. So you do it as a family. And maybe depending on the number of children you have, they can just pick one meal that they get to choose. This is what we're going to have. You can give them rules on it has to contain vegetable. It has to contain a whole grain product. It needs to have some sort of protein source, but let them decide what they want to do. And then there's buy-in for the food. And so if you've got picky eaters or something, then you could go, well, Tuesday's your meal. You chose this. So, eat up. Yeah, absolutely, Leanne. It will really help with those picky eaters and get them wanting to eat for sure. Any other barriers that you might encounter? All right. Okay. So, COVID grocery store lineups. You need to pick the time to go. Maybe cost and availability of healthy foods. That's a possibility too. Yeah, the cost and availability. There are options though. So when we're looking at healthy foods, lots of times people will tell me that vegetables are too expensive or they cost too much. And we were coming into summer now, so vegetables are coming into season. So if you can buy vegetables and fruit that are in season, they will be cheaper. Buying frozen vegetables and fruit is also a healthy alternative. They feel you, yeah. So using frozen vegetables and fruit are a healthy alternative. They may actually be more nutritionally better for you than some of the vegetables and fruit that you're buying in the grocery store that have come from South America or Mexico. Yeah, Sean, I would agree. I would say that probably the vast majority of my veggie intake is from frozen food. I know they're picked when they're fresh. So yeah. Sure. Okay, so Casey says if you know you will fail, plan cheat days in advance. So parties, a cheat meal, etc. So I always have difficulty with the term cheat day because I always think if it's a cheat day, then I'm cheating, right? So here's my thing, Casey. 80% of the time, eat well. So plan for 80% of your meals to be nutritionally sound and eat well. The other 20%, if you want that piece of cake, if you want to have that pizza, if you're out with the guys or the girls and you want to have a beer on the patio, go for it. And not feel guilty about it. As long as it's like that 20%, the other 80% of the time you're eating healthy, then I think that's great. And then you spend more focus on what you're doing well and less focusing on, I had a piece of cake today, right? But yeah, realizing if you've got a birthday coming up, then that's probably a day I'm not going to eat very well. So for the rest of the week, I need to eat well, right? Or if there's a family party coming up, then I know that's probably not going to be a day that I'm going to be able to eat well. So the rest of the day or the rest of the week, I need to ensure that I'm eating well. So see if you can look at it that way. Call it a treat day. That's better. Yeah. Right. Exactly, Catherine. Cheat implies that I did something wrong. So yeah, call it your treat day. So it's a reward. I've eaten really well for all week that now I can have something else. And maybe that treat for some people is, a bowl of vegetables, or a bowl of fresh blueberries. Maybe that's the treat, which again is pretty good. Yeah, or on special occasion days for sure. Yeah. Yeah, just realizing that there are going to be days or occasions where you may not be able to eat as well as you want to eat, and you need to not beat yourself up about it. If you find that you're going through a period where you haven't been eating well, get yourself back on track. Start looking at a food log again, tracking your food, seeing what you're eating, maybe looking at what are the triggers when you start to eat unhealthy. Is something happening? Are you getting super busy with work? Are the kids, is it a certain time of the day that you tend to be eating busy? So maybe you can do something around it. I think reframing it as planned and unplanned and versus good and cheat days help too. Yeah. Yeah. An unplanned day also. Sure. That absolutely would work too, Leona. Yeah. So, give yourself a break if you do eat something that you feel that you shouldn't have eaten. Just give yourself a little bit of a pep talk and say, okay, let's get back to eating what I need to eat. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Be mindful of your treats. For sure. That makes perfect sense, Rachel. Absolutely. There are things that I would absolutely have every single time. And there are other things that, yeah, I'm not going to waste my calories on something else for sure. Yeah. That's a really good idea. So I would pass on your mom's homemade pumpkin pie, but if she made pecan pie, I'd be so in for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And the beauty with home baking, Lindsay, too, is that you know what's been put in it, right? One of the issues with things that you buy in the store that are home baked, lots of them have that high fructose corn syrup, and that's dangerous. If you ever look at the label of some of the foods, the processed foods, the amount of sugar that's been added into them is quite high and can be, it's detrimental. So yeah, you know exactly what you're putting into everything. So for sure. All right. So just going over some resources that we have for you in case you're struggling through this COVID-19 period. So Canadian Forces Member Assistance Program, 24/7, 365 days of the year referral program can be used by you or your immediate family members. Free, confidential, outside chain of command. Canada's Suicide Hotline is there for you as well to help you if should you or somebody you know be struggling with thoughts of suicide. If you're looking for information on COVID-19, go to the source. The Government of Canada has some really good information on COVID-19. Family Information Line is also a resource for you. So this used to be the old Mission Information Line for those of you who may be as old as I am. 1-800 number, 365 days a year bilingual service that you, your family, even your extended family could call and get some help. They have actual counselors on the line to be able to provide you with the help and resources that you need. And they have that military background as well. The Sexual Misconduct Response Center is there to help you as well for all things that may be sexual misconduct in nature. Kids Help Phone, 1-800-866-6868, or text them. They also have a parent line that you can do, and one for Canadian Armed Forces children. So they have a CAF Kids Connect as well. So another good line to help people getting over this difficult time. The ARC line in support of COVID-19 is all things military around COVID-19. So another good resource if you're looking for some information. So I have two quick polls and then one last slide. So thinking about what we've talked about today, do you feel that you can apply what you've learned today in your daily living? Super. That's nice to see. Thank you, guys. And then finally, how satisfied are you with the Demio platform? So this is a platform that we've been using to deliver all our health promotion programs. So is it working for you? We are working on a workaround. So as people start to go back to work, we know this is not available on the D1 or the MPP system, but we're trying to figure out how to get it, how to continue using it. So we're working on it. All right, great. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me. There's my contact information. And I will try to answer that question, answer any questions or concerns that you might have. This recording will be available, as I said, on the YouTube channel eventually. I'm not sure how long it takes to get up there, but I know, Mark, you asked about getting the link. So if you email me, I'll email you the link to recording if you would like it. Okay, and I just want to thank you for joining me today. Next week, we're going to be looking at running strategies. So if you're interested, join us then. And if there's any information that you'd like to receive that you have not gotten yet, please let me know. I'll see you next week if you don't have any more questions. No problem, Lisa. You're welcome, Melissa. Thanks, Rachel. Thank you, Mark. I will. You too. Yeah, see you later, Sean. No problem, Donnie. I don't have it right in front of me, Catherine, but if you email me, I will send it to you. I should have had that on here. No problem, Catherine. All right, everybody. I'll see you later.